hikayesi, biz bugünlere nereden geldik, bu teknolojiye nasıl kavuştuk onu dinleyeceğiz ve Doktor Klenze tekrar konuşmasına devam edecek. Şimdi kendisini kürsüye davet ediyorum konuşmasını yapmak üzere. Hi Dr. Klenze, we are very proud to have you here from a very long flight, but we appreciate we have you and we are willing to hear from you the importance of preventive medicine, personalized medicine, and how we can just practice it in the modern medicine today, in 21st century.
So, thank you very much, Dr. Nesreen. Thank you very much for the university, the dean, and all people who were helping me here in the university, especially Lara, who came up and picked me up yesterday at the airport, the late evening, in the rush hour. Thank you very much for everybody, and I'm very glad to be here again in this wonderful city, which has become my second home already. Istanbul, and it's really one, for my opinion, one of the most beautiful cities in the world, and it's always an honor to be invited here and have this beautiful area and environment around this, which we found around your university here. It's fantastic when you go up to the garden there, the roof garden restaurant, can see over to the Asian side and the Bosporus and the ships around the Bosporus. So again, I'm happy to be here, and I don't want to speak too much now as a prologue and go into the depths of this. When we're talking about preventive medicine, we need a risk prediction. We need something what we can say in 10 years, 20 years, or 30 years, or not really in a different time or better period of time, you are probably facing a risk which you should see now and which you should avoid as it's possible to avoid. There are risks which we know. We measure cholesterol, we reduce cholesterol, and the outcome is that we reduce the risk for myocardial infarction. As in a way which it's not sufficient, but we know that we have possibilities to do something, and we do it since many years. We have good studies doing just exercise. We can reduce risk of obesity, diabetes type 2. We can do special nutrition, which reduces the risk of obesity and cardiovascular disease and cancer as well. So at the end of the day, we have a lot of knowledge, and the studies were coming up in the last year. But to have an individualized risk detection, it's completely different. And that's what I started in the 19th already, before the Human Genome Project was published, with doing some few polymorphism diagnostics, like the catechol methyltransferase, especially for women in breast cancer risk, and to see how we can do something, and especially in this gene, polymorphisms, the COMT, which is involved in the detoxification of estrogens in the phase 2 and estrogenic products. At the end, the catechol methyltransferase is easily to stimulate with folic acid, green tea, and so on. So this was one of the first part I was working in, and developed more and more. And with the rise of the Human Genome Project, at least published in Science and given rise to the public in Keystone, we found out that there are so many opportunities in this field that actually every doctor should go into this. Every doctor should know about this. Every doctor should work with this. And until today, my deepest confession is that I'm convinced that if every doctor would use polymorphism diagnostic for the prediction of risk, if he uses medication or hormone treatment or whatever, we would not have the same situation as we have today with a higher problem of diseases caused by doctors, by us, which, because we don't know what we're doing right. We don't know how our treatment affects the body, how our treatment affects the metabolism. So, more or less, that led to the situation that President Bush already in his last years, and later President Obama, they decided that personalized medicine is a top issue in the health system in the United States. And they found the President's Council of Advisors in Science and Technology, which gave preventive and therapeutic intervention on a personalized way, clear go. So they described in their report for the President actually what we should do to accomplish a risk prediction and custom-tailored prevention. The principle of adjusting treatments to specific patient characteristics has, of course, always been the goal of physicians. That's what I thought. But at the end of the day, with the uprising of the new methods and technology, which enables us to find out polymorphic structures in the genes, we found that we can custom tailor our dosage and our medication. We know if there's a response, we know if there's a risk, we know how this medication at least leaves the body and which stages we have now to observe. Using technologies that interrogate the whole genome to develop a profile of a large set of genomic information, that is genetic profiling. And genetic profiling is at least something which is offered, 23andMe, something in the internet and whatever, while I am convinced the only way to get it right in the right way is by a doctor. Because it should not be an access for every patient to see, oh, I have a risk of this, I have a risk of Alzheimer or whatever, when on the other side there is no knowledge about what I can do, or if this risk has a really hard, there's statistical knowledge behind it. How high the risk, tenfold, fivefold, what does it mean for myself? If I put all my risks together, going on the street, crossing the street by a red light, what kind of risk, how high the risk for my death in that case as well. So we have to put the risk together and then see it in a relative way. So we provide clinical testing in regularly approved labs. That's extremely important. Identify therapies and drugs that may be more effective and create a different diagnostic and risk and treatment pathways for at-risk individuals. So the whole genome testing, which has been done by the genome-wide association studies, is another thing. When we take the whole genomic information of a person, it's nearly not possible to understand everything. It's nearly not possible. So, in addition, we have genes which we do not really understand what they have. If we have genome-wide association studies, which we use, for example, let's say prostate cancer or breast cancer, we find high-risk persons in special population, European population, or female white carriers, or white females, or black, which at the end of the day, we don't know what they're doing. They're on chromosome 17, or chromosome 8, so we don't know what it is doing. The other way is that we go for the physiology of metabolic process, And we say, okay, this way, let's say the example of the catechol orthomethyltransferase. We know exactly it's in the phase 2, or glutathione transferase, the same phase 2 of the detoxification of estrogenic products. And if we have this one, and we know exactly, okay, there's a polymorphism, I give something to stimulate or to block this enzyme. So what can we get? This is evidence, so we know we can folic acid or green tea or whatever. So there are ways to do something which is more on, for us, for me, my opinion, more transparent, more easier to understand. I can, when I tell someone, you know, you have a higher risk for prostate cancer because on the chromosome 8 it came out that in the study of over 1 million people, they found that this polymorphism you have is associated with prostate cancer. The next question is coming, what can I do? So you can't give anything else than you gave without this genetic testing. No, not more, because you say you have to go to the urologist, you have to do the digital rectal exam, the ultrasound, the transrectal ultrasound, you have to eat or drink something, but this is very general. This is what the patient tells you before. I know this, all what you're talking, dear doctor. I know this because I'm very much concerned about my father. So probably this is a motivation stimulus, but this is not a very good thing. So the genome-wide association studies are very good for the science, but for the clinical use, they are very careful to use, and for my opinion. Current realities, results from genome-wide association studies are being published for complex traits. These results will be reported in the as identifying genetic profiles. Some results will be replicated, some not. Consumers will be able to get the genetic profile data from either direct to consumer genetic testing, which is, for my opinion, obsolete, physician-based genetic testing, which I prefer, and whole genome targeting sequencing must not be right now. At the end, we don't know enough. So the whole genome sequencing, you could unlock the secrets of your own DNA, has been done by some of the scientists that use their own DNA to unlock the secret of the DNA. So they found some things here, for example, the whole genome situation here. Craig Venter was one of them who really did his own DNA, the first one who really published his own DNA. You see here on the left side is, you know, the chromosome sequence, and then you see the ducted sentence, the whole sentence. What is interesting is that they probably found something which are traits, which are common traits as well, like nicotine dependency, caffeine dependency. A common trait is, going late to bed or early to bed, evening preference or morning preference. It's all in the genes which are involved in the biorhythm cycle of the hypothalamus and the clock genes. But if you see that, it's more interesting for, I don't know if everybody wants to know exactly everything about this. What we want to know is more, what is a burning situation, a hot situation for me. If my parents died on this, cardiovascular disease, I want to know, do I have a risk for cardiovascular disease or not, or cancer or not? So these are associated common traits of blue eye, fair skin color, evening preference, novelty seeking, alcohol, tobacco addiction is very interesting. So the development of clusters which are important and which have enough genetic evidence behind this for cardiovascular risk, for drug metabolism, inflammation, detoxification, and so on, obesity, metabolic syndrome, they are very important for us because they give us a response where we can do something. I can avoid this, and this is the way it works. So how do we do this? If the patient requires a treatment or requires genetic testing, first he sees the physician. after physician, we have the genomic testing. The genomic testing is the first thing we do always because it's extremely important for us. And we do parallelly the traditional investigation, which are body examination, and to see what is just expressed. You have a cholesterol risk and you have a low LDL cholesterol, so it's not expressed, you know. So probably you had a good time in your early days when the epigenetic was what Dr. Nesrin showed us with the siblings. When one has this epigenetic, the other has the other epigenetic because it was a good time. For the one was not at the sun so much. So the sun wrinkling genes were not expressed, they were silent. We have an expert system which is actually mostly myself, sorry to say that, but we are working on this to get more of this, like Dr. Nesrin or but it's always very important to see the expert, and he says, you know, it is something which has a really risk or not. I want to avoid that the doctor who does not really understand this talks to the patient, you have a risk for Alzheimer's. 10 years, you don't know that your name anymore. So that can happen, and it's unethical and it's not nice, by the way, and at the end of the day, the patient can respond with very, very severe response until he shoot himself down. You know? So, but when we have this all together, then we can prescribe individualized drug treatment, or not only drugs, but as well exercise, individualized exercise. You can because there are a lot of sports genes as well. Mind training, very important. You know, as you know, there are some genes which are involved in psychology are very, very, for my opinion, very interesting to use, and then you can do a special mind training. For example, let's say the mobile phone, which is the pacifier, the modern pacifier for adults, you know. Before we had this pacifier in our mouth as babies, now we have a mobile phone all the time, you know. It gives us safety. So there's really a gene polymorphism from this as well, you know, UT pacifiers. It's an inner nervous way, not stressy. And novelty seeking is as well. Novelty seeking means you're looking always for news, so you can't stand without the mobile phone anymore. Okay, the consequence of polymorphisms are drug hormone metabolism, drug and hormone transport, hormone receptor sensitivity, especially insulin receptor sensitivity, androgen receptor sensitivity, estrogen receptor sensitivity, and so on. Responder or not responder, responder to hormone treatment or not. Give you just a small example in the estrogen receptor alpha, which is a very important gene for the female development. The expression of the estrogen receptor alpha tells you if you have a high sensitivity, if you have a response to hormone treatment or not, regarding preventive medical things. You know, if a woman normally, about 60% of all women do not have a high sensitive estrogen receptor alpha. But those who have, they respond extremely good to estrogen therapy regarding reduction of cardiovascular risk, regarding osteoporosis. The other group who has the majority of the women, they don't respond. In the opposite, when they take estrogens over a long time period, they have a higher risk for cardiovascular disease with the estrogen because of the clotting problem. So at the end of the day, it's a very early decision what you as a doctor should recommend to your patient. Take estrogen or not. You know, not just for hot flushes for a short time, it's no problem, but for long term, if you want to use hormone treatment for preventive medicine purposes. Adverse drug reaction, yes, it's very important. Which adverse drug reaction you have? You know the 2C9 cytochrome P450 enzyme and the G2C9, which is involved in the polymorphism in the drug metabolism of another thing which I find important to know. So this gives you a lot of information. And not just, just one gene can give you all this information, so you have to see that. Let's see here for responder and non-responder, some examples. See here, for example, asthma. Asthma treatment, asthma would be treatment with anti-leukotriene treatment. Anti-leukotriene, the leukotrienes are inflammation, pro-inflammatory cytokines, which at the end of the day are involved in asthma and acute asthma status. And there's a promoter region in this leukotriene, LOX5, which can be mutated, and if this is the case, there's no response or poor response to this, to the asthma patient. So, but believe me, I don't think that any of the lung doctors, or just probably 1%, thinks about this, and they just prescribe it, So, and it doesn't work. Then it can cause a lot of problems. Atherosclerosis, we have the cholesterol ester transport protein. It's a protein which is involved in the transport of cholesterol esters from HDL, from the good one, to VLDL and LDL, to the bad one. So a high CETP activity is not good for cardiovascular risk, and that depends on this gene, which at the end of the day controls the CETP expression. And based on this gene mutation, there are developed CETP inhibitors. That will inhibit this to increase HDL and to decrease VLDL and LDL and triglycerides. Many of the patients come to you telling you they have problems with smoking, to stop smoking. Smoking cessation is a big problem in all these patients, and we know that they have sometimes cravings they can't. And that's how the nicotine is at the end of the day detoxified. This cytochrome B2B6, for example, there's a variation which is called the TT variation, and it's involved in difficulties to stop smoking, because these people have a slow metabolism, and they have always high nicotine. Heart failure is another thing. We treat carbidiol with heart failure. There's a beta 2. You told today about, I think Dr. Nesrin spoke about the beta 2 adrenal receptor. The adrenal receptors are very important in the body. You know that we have beta 1, we have alpha 1, alpha 2, beta 1, beta 2, beta 3. And the beta 2 is important as well in not only in the heart failure situation, but in hypertension, as well in obesity, diabetes, and cancer. So that the ALOX, the leukotrienes family, that the leukotrienes are important mediators for a number of inflammatory and allergic conditions. This is asthma. Mutations in the promoter region of this gene lead to a diminished response to anti-leukotriene drugs used in the treatment of asthma. May also be associated with atherosclerosis and several cancers. You can see the leukotriene everything comes from arachidonic acid, it's the inflammatory cascade by the 5-lipoxygenase gene. The smoking cessation, this is a study which was published in Pharmacogenetics. And we conclude that smokers with 2B6 variant may be more vulnerable to abstinence symptoms and relapse. Buprion, that's very important, may probably attenuate these effects, especially among females. CETP metabolism, here you see the CETP metabolism, which is, I think, which you can see here. The CETP, at the end, transports the cholesterol ester to VLDL and then to LDL and triglycerides, thereby reducing HDL. So, genetic variation, beta 2 is the genetic receptor impacting intermediate cardiovascular phenotypes. The beta 2 adrenal receptor gene variation can risk stratified patients receiving beta blocker therapy and make beta blocker efficacy. Patients plus acute coronary syndrome on patients with heart failure. So it's good to know if it works or not, how it works, if it works enough or not. Here another study which the genotypes especially increased as well with higher risk for myocardial infarction, cancer, and ischemic disease. You see that studies which probability of staying free of cancer and myocardial infarction, intermittent claudication. And you see that depends very much on the genotype which is there written and studied. Here at the end says the same in a different cluster. So to know more about disease and stability to disease is interesting as well. We want to know if our patient has a higher risk for hypertension, for example. You know, when he has, my father died on a stroke. And you can see the hypertension gene, there are AGT, ACE, and the angiotensin receptor 1, beta 1, and adrenaline receptor. And you see all these 4 genes are involved in hypertension, increased blood pressure, increase the risk for high blood pressure as well. The ACE, angiotensin converting enzyme, is a very important enzyme because it's involved as a sports gene as well. It says to a good side and a bad side. If you see today the winners on the podium of a sports competition, which is power sports competition like soccer or like short-term running or swimming, then those people who win always have, in 9% of them, has been found in a Russian study, they have an ACE mutation. That means they have, when they stop, the moment they stop with exercise, with special power exercise, they get a higher risk for hypertension. And all these people always have, in later years, thick heart wall, you know, hypertension and higher risk for heart disease and stroke. So this is a very important one. Once you have this, you have to say this. But on the other hand, there are people who are very good to use for this sports, kind of sports. If they are going, angiotensin converting enzyme is reducing bradykinin. So if you have these people in running around for a long-term distance, they will never get the first number 1 or whatever, number 2, never. Because they are not, they can do that, but they are extremely good for reducing bradykinin and increasing the blood pressure, increasing it. The AGT is angiotensin as well. It's a precursor of this. Everything belongs to the RAS system, renin-angiotensin system of the kidneys, and has effect directly on hypertension. You see the renin-angiotensin aldosterone system increasing aldosterone and keeping the sodium and water in the body. In the ACE gene is the deletion genotype, which is the one who is the risk genotype. And as I told you as well, not only the risk. And not only the risk genotype. As well, it's very important is the angiotensin 2 receptor is involved in the mitogenic signaling pathways. So it's involved in apoptosis of kidney cells and so on as well. So it's a very important marker of apoptosis of vessels and kidney vessels, glomeruli, and so on. So this is an extremely important part of this whole system. The higher the signaling is, the higher the genetic expression is of this receptor, the higher is the risk for apoptosis in the vessels. The beta-1 receptor is known to be a higher risk factor for increased susceptibility to fibrillation, heart fibrillation, for